Okay, good afternoon to all the participants. I welcome you back on the 5 days online workshop for the session 2. And Dr. Pragati Agarwal ma'am shall join us soon. Until then, if anybody wants to introduce themselves or want to share their expectations from this workshop, they are welcome. Anybody? Regarding the attendance, we request all the participants to post their email ID with which they have registered in the comment box so that it will be helpful for us to mark the attendance. And also, regarding the doubts during the session, you can post your doubts in the comment box and we will pick your question from there. Okay, so we have Dr. Pragati Agarwal ma'am with us. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Okay, so we'll start with a brief introduction of Dr. Pragati Agarwal ma'am. Dr. Pragati Agarwal ma'am has received the Bachelor in Engineering degree in Computer Science and Engineering from the Rajiv Gandhi Pradyogiki Vishwavidyalaya Bhopal, and the PhD degree in Computer Science from the International Institute of Information Technology, Bangalore. She is an assistant professor at Maulana Azad National Institute of Technology, Bhopal, and before joining NIT Bhopal, she has also worked as assistant professor in College of Engineering Pune and International Institute of Information Technology Pune. She has more than 5 years of experience in teaching and research. Her research interests are in energy aware computing, that is green IT, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. She also has interests in energy efficiency, distributed computing, and analytic hierarchy process. She holds authorship in several papers in reputed journals, conferences, and book chapters. Dr. Pragati Agrawal has been a reviewer for many journals, transactions of the IEEE and ACM, and Dr. Agrawal is a member of the IEEE and ACM. I welcome Dr. Pragati Agrawal, ma'am, for the second session, which is on the introduction to computational biology and parallel architecture and PRM models. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Abha, for the introduction. I welcome all the participants for this workshop. And in this session, in the previous sessions, I hope all of you have attended. And Professor Nilikhare has briefly given the introduction to what is a machine, a computer, and why it is important, why you all are here to understand this parallel algorithm. So, because this is a world where no one wants to do a slow job, we all want our work to finish fast, right? So, we do not have the patience, or we do not have that much time that we can wait for the work to be done little slow. Okay, in the uniprocessor or in the slow processor, it may take several unit of time. You might be aware that if you have run a code, a bigger program, then it may run for even years, right? So that is why this parallel computing word comes, because you want to run things in parallel, right? So I'll be sharing the screen. Please let me know once it is visible. Is it visible?
It's visible, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay, okay, fair enough. You can see the board. Yes. So the principle that the speed and the capability of computers can be expected to double every 2 years as a result of increase in the number of transistors a microchip can contain. You might be aware of this principle, right? What was this? Okay, so actually the thing is like we cannot wait for with the time the computers are getting faster, right? But we do not have the patience to wait for the computers to get faster. We do not have the patience to wait for many years. So this is the Moore's law, right? What does this Moore's law say? It tells us about the principle. Okay, so we do not have that patience. So that is why we have to do such thing that our work is done faster. As Professor Nilikhare has also said that if one person cannot do the limited amount of work, we would like two people to do or multiple people to do the same work so that the work gets faster, right? So parallel computing is a proven way to get higher performance. Okay, but what is parallel computing? So parallel computing is the use of parallel computers to reduce the time needed to solve a single computational problem. It is the use of a parallel computer to reduce the time needed to solve a single and it is now considered a standard way for the computational scientist and engineer to solve many problems in the areas of climate modeling, aircraft design, molecular dynamics, and multiple other areas, right? Also, you might be aware that the computational biology problem is also a NP-hard problem. Okay, so the computer science background people knows or the engineering background people knows, I am presume that this you understand what is a NP-hard problem. A NP-hard problem is such a problem which so by hard, we all understand the meaning of the word hard, that this is not easy, right? This is something which is hard. NP is or P times solvable. So there are problems which is P times solvable. So it means the problems or the algorithms or the problems which can be solved, or what do we mean by the problem can be solved? Meaning the solution or the algorithm to that problem can be written in the uh, can be written and that will be executed in the polynomial time. Okay, so NP hard problems are such problems for that uh, the solution is not possible in the polynomial time. Okay, so for such kind of hard problems, so non-polynomial or which cannot be solved in the polynomial time, it meaning they will take several years. So it is very important that we have to use the parallel computing. Okay, and also as sir mentioned that it is not possible to write those algorithms directly. We had to understand the architecture. So for the parallel computing or the parallel algorithm, we need to understand the parallel architecture as well. So in today's lecture, I will be talking about the parallel architecture. So there are multiple types of parallelism. So one is the parallelism in hardware. So we have to make the hardware such that the parallelism is possible. Or we say this, we are talking about in the uniprocessor system. Which can be achieved by pipelining, etc. Right. Then the another thing is this SIMD instructions. Vector processors. GPUs. I'll be talking about all these things in detail. Then the multiprocessor. So this meaning symmetric shared memory multiprocessors then distributed distributed memory multiprocessors or another one is chip microprocessors which is um, also known as multi-cores then this is about the parallelism in hardware. Then another thing is the parallelism in software. Which is the instruction level parallelism task level data parallelism and transaction level parallelism. Okay, so coming to the taxonomy of the parallel computers. So these are the types of the parallelism in the hardware and the software. Okay, so we'll understand them. So coming to the taxonomy of parallel computers, also I will request all the participants that if you have any doubt, you can post your queries in the chat bot and then we will discuss it, okay, at the end of the session. So according to the instructions and the data stream, so there are the instruction stream and the data stream. The Flynn has given the classification known as the Flynn's classification. So it is Flynn has given the classification as single instruction, single data. Which is also abbreviated as SISD, single instruction, single data. So this is the standard uniprocessor system. Okay, so this is the standard uniprocessor system. The second one is single instruction, multiple data. So there is a single instruction stream and data streams are multiple. So abbreviated as SIMD. So here the same instruction is executed in all the processors with the different data. Third one is multiple instruction and single data stream. The fourth one is multiple instruction and multiple data, which is MIMD. Okay, so here this SISD is the uniprocessor system. Okay, and SIMD is the here the same instruction is executed in all the process with different data. So example of this kind of systems are the vector processors or the SIMD instructions, which you have seen here. So here the vector processors, SIMD instructions and GPUs are the example of the second one, right? Single instruction and multiple data. The third one is the multiple instruction and single data. So here different instruction on same data is given. So data stream is single and multiple instruction streams is there. So here on the same data, multiple instructions or different instructions are given. So fault tolerant computers comes under this category. Okay. Then the last one is multiple instruction and multiple data. So here this is the common multiprocessor system, and in this each process uses its own data and executes its own program. Okay, so this is the most flexible approach, and it is very easy to build by putting together of the shell processors. So this one is the most flexible and the common approach. Okay. So, to seek the concurrency, we have seen that the parallel computers are more than available these days. Okay, but in order to take the advantage of multiple processors, the programmers or the compiler must be able to identify the operation that may be performed in parallel or concurrently, what can be performed concurrently. So we need to understand the data dependence graph to understand the data parallelism and the functional parallelism. Okay, so we need to understand the data dependence graph. So data dependence graph is a formal way to identify the parallelism, and in any activity is drawn. So I'll just give the brief definition, a formal way to identify parallelism in any activity is to draw data dependence graph. Okay, so this is a directed graph. I hope all of you understand what a graph is. So what is a graph? So we say graph G is the set of vertices and the set of edges. What is a set? Anyone can unmute and speak. Are you all there with me? Can you see the screen and hear?
Yes, Pragati ma'am, everything is visible.
Okay,
You are
fine.
audible.
Fair enough. So, as I see in the participants, people are from multiple background. I am trying to make the session as simple and easy as possible. So I hope the science people and the people from non-technical background or non-computer science engineering background, they also understand what a set and what a graph is and whatever stuff I am talking about. So if you are facing any difficulty or not able to understand, please you can unmute and speak, or also you can put it in the chat bot also. Okay. So anyone can speak and tell what is a graph?
Pragati ma'am, graph is having two entities. What is vertices and the edges. Vertices, you can say nodes in the graph, and edges are the ordered pair set of the vertices.
Okay, yes. So, yeah, so as all of you understand what a graph is, so even we can say in the between the our in the map, multiple cities are there, and there are multiple applications of the graph. So we are not here to understand what a graph is. The data dependence graph meaning, so if we are making any graph, so it is a set of vertices and set of edges. Okay, so edge shows the connection between the vertices. So for example, if I am talking about a graph between the cities, so you say here Delhi, here say suppose Jaipur, say Hyderabad, and maybe Kolkata. So if you want to find the distance between the cities, so these are the edges. Okay, edges means this is a path. Okay, this is a node or the vertex of the graph. Okay, so here I have not mentioned the direction, but I can also mention the direction. So it means I can go only from Delhi to Jaipur. So maybe if this is a graph of the airline, so there is a flight available from Delhi to Jaipur, but Jaipur to Delhi is not available. Okay, or maybe a flight is available from Jaipur to Bangalore. And then if I mark here, so this is both the directions, so it is available. And similarly, if I can make it something like this. Okay, so this is a directed graph, or for the directed graph, you can also assume that I will tell you about the data dependence graph only. So maybe a very basic and the simple day-to-day example that you have some clothes, dirty clothes. Okay, so first you will wash them, right? Then you will iron them, right? So it is important that you have a particular sequence when you are doing such thing. Okay, so data dependence graph is also a similar kind of graph in which the dependency is mentioned. Okay, so it is a directed graph in which each vertex, so it is a directed graph where vertex uh, represent the task. To be completed, and if I say there is an edge from U to V, it means the task U has to finish or has to be completed before the starting the task V. Okay, so before starting the task V, I have to finish the task U. And if there is no path between, if there is no path between U to V, it means so if edge is from U to V, it means task U must be completed before task V. Okay, and if there is no edge or path between U and V, it means task V is independent of task U. Okay, so we'll just take an example to understand this better, and we'll also see the data parallelism and the functional parallelism. Okay, and pipelining. So we are considering a problem So the problem is that um, an estate weekly landscape maintenance has to be done. Okay. And Alan is the leader. So, for example, the person is Alan, is the leader of 8-person crew. And the problem of performing an estate's weekly landscape maintenance. Okay, so for the speedy recovery of the landscape, his goal is to complete the 4 principal tasks. So what are those tasks? One is, so these are the 4 tasks: mowing the lawns, edging the lawns, weeding the garden, and checking for the sprinkles. So as quickly as possible he has to do. Okay, so let's think of this as a dependence involving the 4 lawn as because some work has to be done before the other work. Okay, so I'll try to make the data dependence graph for the same. So first we need to turn off the security system. Okay, then what task has to be done? Mow the lawn, edging the lawn, then weeding the garden. Okay, and then only after all these things has completed, then only we can check for the sprinklers, right? And then we have to turn on the security system. Okay, so here the work crew is of 8 members, right? So let's say one is Alan, second one is I'll just for the simplicity name them as A, B, C, or here also I'll say A is the leader of 8 persons crew. Okay, so those 8 persons are A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. Okay, so there are multiple areas in the lawn. So what can be done? So Alan can A can do the mowing of the north lawn, So suppose we have the multiple lawns. So if we have 8 people, then so I will make another one. So first is turn off security system. Okay, so one person will do this task. Then moving off north, moving off east, moving off south, and moving off west lawn is there, and then edge of north and east, edge of south and west, say weed a front garden someone is doing, and weed back portion of the garden. Okay, so these are all in the one line, and after that only checking of the sprinklers will be done. And then turn on security system. So one person can do this A, and here 8 tasks are there. So A is also doing, B is doing this, C, D, E, F, G, and H, and say again only one person is required. So A is doing, and again suppose A is doing this. So you see here when all these nodes or all these tasks are not related to each other, they do not have any edge or any connection between them, so they are independent. Okay, as I have told, when there is no edge or no path, then they are independent of the task. Okay, so any one of them can do it, and they are doing it simultaneously, and then checking for the sprinklers and the turning on the security. So here, so the larger task is divided into multiple tasks so that multiple people can do in the same time. Okay. So to understand what is a data parallelism, so if the data dependence graph exhibits data parallelism when there are independent tasks applying the same operation to different elements of the data. Okay, so the uh, same task are applied in the different elements of the data. So for example, it means different, or I should say independent same operation to different elements. So for example, a small piece of algorithm can be, say, for I to from 0 to 99, do A of I is B of I plus C of I, and then and for. So here you see the same operation, addition, is being performed to first 100 elements, right, of the array B and C, and with the results being put to the first 100 elements of the A. So all the 100 elements or 100 iteration of the loop are executed simultaneously, right? So this is called as the data parallelism. And the data dependence graph in parallelism, you can see that if this is A, B, sorry. So this graph exhibits the data parallelism where three tasks may be concurrently be applied the same operation B to different operands, right? So this is called as the data parallelism. The second one is the functional parallelism. So here when different operation is applied to different data elements. So different operation is applied to different data element. So example of a fine-grained functional parallelism can be seen in the sequential algorithm. Say A is 2, we give the value 3 is B, and then A plus B by 2 S is A square plus B square by 2, and say V is S minus M square. So this is the example of the functional parallelism where you can see that the values of A and B are given. S and M uses the value of A and B, and then later on V is computed using the values of M and S. So here M and S are the working in parallel, right? So the data dependence graph exhibiting the functional parallelism can be seen as A, B, C and D are exhibiting the functional parallelism and are working simultaneously. And then once all these things have finished, then we execute the last statement. So that one is the functional parallelism. Okay. The third one is called as the pipelining. So here when a chain is there, okay, so when the data parallelism graph, data dependence graph, forming a simple path or a chain. For example, the graph is say A, B and C. So when it is like this, then we say that, so this is purely sequential graph. If all the tasks take the same amount of time to execute and multiple problem instances need to be processed. So here the operation C may be performed on instance I, while the operation B is performed on the instruction I plus 1 and operation A is performed on the instruction I plus 2. So such kind of structure is called as a pipeline. So you can think of an example in the automobile assembly line. The pipelining is formed. Okay, so the data dependence graph forming a simple path or a chain. So this exhibits no parallelism if only a single problem. So if there is only one problem to be solved or one, then there is no parallelism. But when uh, the computation is divided into stages, okay. So for example, assembly line, then at each stage. So I'll just tell you this with the help of example, that let's consider the pipeline in the context of for loop. So suppose this is P0 is A0, P1 is A0 plus A1, P2 is A0 plus A0 plus A1 plus A2 plus A3. So this can be accomplished by the for loop as P of 0 is A of 0, then for I is equal to 1, 2, 3. Do P of I plus A of I and then and for. So the loop is not data parallel. Why? So you can you see the difference between both the codes? So here this is the data parallelism, okay, because you are doing the addition. And this is not the data parallel because Pi here depends on the value of Pi minus 1. So first you compute this P0 is A0, then P1 is, you can see this one as A1 plus P0, then P2 is A2 plus P1, P3 is A3 plus P2. So this you have already computed in the previous step. So that is why you can see that data parallelism and pipelining are different concepts. So here this Pi is Pi minus 1 plus AI. Okay. So if I have to write, I can here only I can write this one as A0. This is P0 plus A1, P1 plus A2, because you see this is already computed here. So this is P1. Okay. This is P2 plus A3. So how your pipeline looks like? So initially you give A0 to P0, then this value P0 is given and addition is performed. The value A1 is given, P1 is computed, then P1 and A2 are given as input, addition is performed and the value of P2 is computed. Then the value of P2 and A3 is given and P3 is computed. So this is the example of the pipelining. Okay. So there are actually, so if I say what is a parallelism, it refers to the simultaneous occurrence of event on a computer. And the event can mean any of the thing. Okay, it can be a arithmetical operation, it can be a logical operation, it can be accessing the memory, it can be performing the input and the output operation. So anything can be considered as a event. Okay, so there are different types of parallelism, job level parallelism, program level, instruction level, bit level, and several other types of parallelism is also there. Okay, so just quickly we'll see and then we'll move to the architecture. So one is job level, then program level, instruction level, and bit level. Okay, so what is a job level parallelism? So when the several independent jobs simultaneously run on the same computer system. So there are different jobs but running on the same computer system. That kind of parallelism is called as the job level parallelism. What is program level? So program level is when several tasks are performed simultaneously to solve a single common problem. Okay. Then in the instruction level, the processing of the instructions, such as what we have seen, like addition of two numbers. So it can be divided into sub instructions. Okay. So when we are dividing one instruction or one problem into multiple instructions, and if all these similar instructions are to be performed and if they are overlapped using the technique called the pipelining. So that is called as the instruction level, which we have seen in the previous examples, right? And when the bits in a word are handled by one after the another, this is called as the bit serial operation. And if the bits are acted on in parallel, then the operation is called as the bit parallel. So let's quickly do an problem or an example so that it will be easier for you to understand what is a job level parallelism. Okay, so I'll give a question. So I would like all of you to try it on your own. Okay, and then I will also solve along with you. So consider a problem. So with four processors. So four processors are there. consider a computer with 4 processors. It runs jobs that are classified as small, medium, and large. Okay, so a small job requires one processor, medium requires 2 processors, and large job requires 4 processors. Okay, each job on the computer takes 1 unit of time. Okay, so and the sequence is given as small, medium, large, small, small, medium, large, large, small, medium, and medium. Now we have to show how these jobs would be scheduled to run if the queue is treated in the order. Okay, so how these jobs will be run if these are the jobs. Okay, so initially we know that here we have 4 processors. Okay, so let's write here the time. If you want to speak, you can unmute and you can share your answers. I'll be happy to hear the answers. And this is the jobs summary and the utilization, CPU utilization. Okay, so at time 1, so we have 4 processors. Okay, first is the small job. So small job will take 1 processor. I can run small job, and I can also run medium job in the same time because I have 2 processors left. So if, say for example, I have the processor P1, P2, P3 and P4. So I am running small job in the processor P1 and use P2 and P3 for the medium job. So how much utilization is there here? 75% of the CPU utilization is there because 1 processor is left empty. Okay. Then at time 2, if I am running the large processor, then all the 4 processors will be given to the large. So here the CPU utilization will be 100%. Then I have to move to the time 3. So this is also completed. Then I have 2 small jobs can run at the same time, right? Processor P2 I'll give to small job and say 2 processors to the medium job. Okay, so here this again I have the CPU utilization of 100%. Then again I have a large job which I need to give all the 4 processors, and then 5th is again the large job. Then for 6th I have small and medium. So in this case also, what will be the CPU utilization? 75%, and at last 1 medium job is remaining, which will be using 50% of the CPU. So you can find out the average CPU utilization, and this is the sequence of job and the time taken to solve all these jobs in this given sequence will be 7 units. So you have calculated that 7 units will be required given 4 processors. Do you understand? Okay, so this is actually a big concept because in all kinds we have different kinds of parallelism, and the types of parallelism is also classified on the basis of the granularity, like fine grained, medium grained, and the coarse grained systems. And I'm not talking in detail about the history of parallelism. So the example of the fine grained systems are the connection machine or the J machines. Medium grained is the Intel IPSC, and coarse grains are the Cray or the YMP. Right. So these are the actually computers which are the parallel computers. Okay. So coming to the architecture of the model, so we have to see the interconnection networks. I'm sorry, because of the lack of time, I'm going little fast. But if you are facing any problem in the understanding part, you can speak. I'll try to make it little slow. So interconnection networks. So the first one is shared versus switched model. The second one is switch network topology. And in this will then the 2D mesh, binary tree, hypertree network, butterfly, hypercube network, and shuffle exchange. So these are the parallel architectures. So we'll understand the topology and the networks. Okay. So the shared versus the switched model. So here the shared medium allows only one message at a time. So I'll help you with explain you with the help of a diagram. So processors in the parallel computer may communicate over shared or switch model. Okay, switched or shared interconnection medium. So if these are the say processors, okay, so this is the medium and the multiple processors are interacting via the shared medium. Whereas these are the processors and this is the shared medium. Whereas in the switched model, what happens? Several processors interact with the switched medium. Okay, so here the shared medium allows only one message at a time to be sent. Sorry. So only one message is allowed to be sent, and each processor listens to every message, okay, and receives the one for which it is destined. Okay, so this processor is sending the message with also with the address. It is being shared in the shared medium, the common medium, okay, and all the processors will listen, and the processor for which it is destined, it will receive the message. Whereas in the switched medium, it support the simultaneously transmission of multiple message among the pair of processors. Okay, so they support the concurrent transmission of multiple messages among different pair of the processor. For example, this is a switched medium where it allows this processor to communicate to the say third processor, and the first processor is communicating with the fourth processor. Okay, so they support the scaling of the interconnection network to accommodate great number of processors. Coming to the switched network topologies, so there are several switched network topology. I should have so this is all about the shared and the switched medium, and then these are the several switched network topologies. Okay, so there is a direct topology as well as an indirect topology. So in direct topology, the ratio of the switch to nodes is 1:1, and every switch node is connected to one processor node and one or more other switch node. Okay, and in indirect topology, the ratio of I'll write it. Okay, so there are two kinds of switch network topology. One is direct topology and another is the indirect. So here the ratio of switch node to processor node is 1:1, and here it is greater than 1:1. So some of the switches simply connect the other switches. So there are different criteria on which we will which help us to understand their effectiveness and the efficient parallel algorithms on the real hardware. So, those are those criterias are the first one is diameter, second one is bisection width, then the third is edge per switch node, then the edge length. So the first topology is the 2D mesh topology. Okay, so it is a direct topology in which switches are arranged in the 2D lattice. So this is a direct topology where switches are arranged in two-dimensional lattice. Okay, so let's see the variant of so here the circles represent the switch and these squares represent the processor. Okay, so I am making this a two-dimensional lattice. You can see this is a 2D mesh. So this is a hardware or the architecture, you can understand. Okay, so whenever you write a parallel algorithm, you have to also mention on what hardware or on what architecture this algorithm is written, because when the hardware changes, the complexity of the algorithm and several other things will change. Right. So here this you have 16 switches and are connected in a 2D mesh. So even when we will study about the sorting and the searching algorithm, so we will be doing all the algorithms in different kind of architectures. Okay, so if one algorithm is written on a certain kind of architecture, then the complexity of the algorithm, time complexity as well as the space complexity will be changed. Okay, so this is a two-dimensional mesh architecture, and also the another variant can be when the first switch is connected to the last switch and this is also connected. Okay, so this is just an architecture where all are connected. So it makes a big change when they are connected, right? And also say these are also so here you see the arrangement of the connection of the switches and the systems. So here you can see that the ratio of, as I have told, switch node to processor node. So number of switch node and number of processors are same. So the ratio of switch node to processor node is 1:1. So that is why this one is a direct topology. Okay. So then so now I have also told you about this criteria, the diameter, bisection width, edge per switch node and the edge length. So can you tell me the diameter in this? What will be the diameter? So diameter is of a network is the largest distance between two switch nodes. Okay. So diameter is the largest distance between two switch nodes. Okay. Also, you should remember the lower the diameter is better, because diameter puts a lower bound on the complexity of the parallel algorithm, requiring communication between the arbitrary pair of nodes. So now I have told you about what is the diameter. Can you tell what is the diameter in this case for a 2D mesh? If say suppose the number of nodes is n, what will be the diameter? Or so the largest distance will be if I name this node as say A and the node as B. So what is the distance from node A to B? So in this case there are 16 switches. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. But in general case, if you have to say there are n nodes, so what will be your diameter? So this is, what is your root n? 4, right? Minus 1 into 2, right? So in this case, it is 6. So the distance from here to this one, you can see that it is root n minus 1, right? And you have to do the same 2 times. So when you have n nodes, then your diameter will be twice of root n minus 1. Is this clear? Now, let's see what will be the bisection width. When I say bisection width, so it is the minimum number of edges between switch node. So this is the largest distance. Bisection width is the minimum number of edges we need to remove between switch nodes. That must be removed in order to divide the network into 2 halves. Okay, so you see here, this is one network. If we want to divide the network into 2, so we have to remove these many edges. So in that case, what will be your bisection width? So you have to remove 1, 2, 3 and 4. So once you remove these 4 edges, then your network will be divided into 2 halves, right? So your bisection width will be, in this case, when you have 16 nodes, it is 4. So when you have n nodes, it will be root n, right? And you have n switch nodes, right? So I think the time is also up. So I'll end the session here, and we'll carry on with the this thing in the next session. Okay, but the next session is Professor Devnath will be taking the next session, and he'll be talking about the computational biology, and it will be a hands-on session. So he will be explaining, giving the practical knowledge to you. Okay.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, for the elaborative cognitive content and the noumenon on parallel computing, and the idea of parallelism and the types of parallelism, and the numerical example you took to make us understand, ma'am. Thank you for this enriching session, ma'am.
Yeah. So if you have any doubts, I am ready to take them. If any student has posted any doubts, or if you want to ask any doubts, feel free to ask. Else we can end the session, and then after the break we can continue with Professor Devnath will be taking the practical session. Okay, thank you.
We will have a lunch break for an hour, and we shall come back at 2:30. Thank you.